Hey guys, so today trying something brand new idea, something new here on the channel. About a week ago, I asked you guys to submit your phone numbers, put out a request for some phone numbers via Instagram, and I got a lot of responses, which is awesome. So today we're going to be calling you guys, a handful of you guys, I should say, because there's no chance I'll be able to get to every one of you, at least not in this episode. But we'll be calling you guys, to ask you what's on your mind regarding poker. What do you need answers for? What questions do you have? Whether that's a poker hand, poker life issues, bankroll issues, anything that's on your mind about poker whatsoever. And I'm gonna have a special guest who will introduce to you guys in a minute. But really want to ask you guys for some feedback on this video. Let me know whether this is something you want to see more of, less of, none of, a lot more regularity of. Let me know whatever you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about this video. Cheers, guys. All right, guys, what's up? Here we are with a good buddy of mine, Mr. Benton Blakeman. Benton, YouTube, Benton.
Hi.
So you've heard me mention the now somewhat famous, somewhat infamous poker text message group, who my buddy Benton is a part of, very much a part of, one of the most active posters, and one of the guys who the rest of the guys look forward to hearing from the most, I would say. You might be somewhat humble to actually repeat that, but I'm gonna say it. So yeah, Benton, been living in Las Vegas. You were not living in Las Vegas, then you were living in Las Vegas, back and forth a little bit.
Yeah.
Why don't you introduce yourself to all the fine folks at home and just give us your sort of 2-minute poker story.
Okay.
Led you to this moment right now.
I graduated from college like in 2002, but right after I moved to Las Vegas. Lived here for 4 years, saw the poker boom from 03 to 07. I was here when Moneymaker won. Just saw poker really take off. So I started off working at the Palms for a while and decided just to quit my job and play poker because I wanted to live the dream.
Okay.
And that was in 2004.
What kind of job did you have at the time?
Oh man, I did everything at the Palms. I started off as a prop player. So I was playing 4 and 8 limit hold'em.
So they had a prop player back then?
Yeah, yep, on graveyard shift. So I was playing 2-4 limit and 4-8 limit hold'em.
Okay.
Getting paid $8 an hour plus benefits. So
life is good already.
yeah, I moved here, I was 21 when I graduated college.
Yeah.
So I moved here at 21, I got a job playing poker, which is just like the most unbelievable thing. So I did that for a while, then I got promoted to a cashier.
Moving up, nice.
Moving up, dealt for a few months, and then when the Palms opened up their high limit poker room, they made me a shift manager. So I was a shift manager in the high limit room for about 6 months.
Yeah.
All during that time I was playing poker. I'd work my shift, then I'd go to the Bellagio and play limit hold'em because there's no limit hold'em then.
No, there was no limit games at the Bellagio?
At anywhere. There was like one no limit game.
So what year was this?
This was the beginning of 2004.
And they still didn't, even though Moneymaker had won.
The only place that was spreading no limit regularly was the Palms, with a 2-5 game, 100 to 500 buy.
The Palms was the first, basically.
The first. Bellagio followed soon after, but it was a 2-5 game with like a straight $200 buy.
2-5 with just 200.
It was essentially like California poker.
Okay.
So it wasn't, conducive to a real poker game.
Sure.
So I was playing a lot of like 20-40 limit hold'em at the Mirage, 30-60 limit hold'em at Bellagio.
So how long did it take you? How long of like a time span are we moving from shift manager Benton to 20-40, 40-80 Benton?
Well, I started, when I moved here in 2003, I'd been playing poker a long time, like maybe 2.5 years.
When you moved from where?
When I moved from Louisiana.
Okay.
Yeah, moved here from Louisiana. I played all throughout college, my last 2 years in college, mostly like 4-8 limit hold'em. So I moved here and like started playing limit hold'em, took my shot at like $10 and $20 limit.
Yeah.
And
how did that go?
Okay. Yeah, I played really tight. So just moved my way up.
Were you like studying back then, or were you just kind of like feeling your way through it, or what?
With limit hold'em, I was definitely studying. I was I still have my collection, like I'm sure you do. Just a whole collection of books.
Okay, so it was like limit hold'em books.
Lee
like
Jones,
the
limit
classics.
hold'em for low limit players. I don't remember the name of them, but
Yeah.
those classic, just 2+2 publishing books.
Sure.
No limit, totally felt my way out. So I quit working in September of 2004 after I played full time for 6 months while working and realized I could make more money playing.
So you're basically like, you had 2 jobs between poker and ship
From
management.
like March of 04 to September of 04 when I quit. I was working 40 hours a week and playing 30 to 40.
Were you single at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yep. And then I quit, and like my first day after quit, because I couldn't play at the Palms as a shift manager. They didn't allow the shift managers to play.
Yep.
So my first day after quitting, I showed up there, and everybody said, "You quit? What are you here for?" I said, "I'm here to play." So I just like showed up at the Palms. Like I didn't miss a day. I just went right back to the Palms.
You're like, I see where the real money is.
And that's where the no limit grind started. Yeah.
And so you hopped in, no limit. They had the 2-5 game at the Palms.
2-5, 500 max.
So they made it 5. They eventually changed it to 500 max.
No, the Bellagio was the 200.
Oh, okay,
Straight.
this
The
is the
Palms was
Bellagio.
100 to 500
Okay.
from day one. But there was no like smaller game. That was just it.
That was the
just
only game.
2-5, 100 to 500.
Those must have been the days.
They had 4 games every day with 100 people on the waiting list.
100 people?
Definitely on the weekends, they'd have a 100 person waiting list.
Wow.
Yeah.
Trying to play 2-5, 500 max
2-5,
buy.
500 max.
And that was the only game. There was no smaller game.
Right.
Man, that's a different time.
It was. Yeah.
So,
It was neat.
did you keep records back then of like your win rate and stuff like that? I mean, I don't know if you would remember your win rate, but do you remember?
I
like,
kept
keeping-
records as far as like pen and paper.
Yeah.
But I don't remember, hourly rate or anything like that.
Sure.
But I can promise you it was something that would be completely unattainable today.
Right.
It would probably be on par with like an amazing 5-10 or a mediocre 10-20 player playing the 2-5 game.
Okay.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is
it was
like,
pretty sick.
it's pretty similar to like my story, but just like in the online realm, because when I kind of, I started playing casually online, and then I was working a job which kind of like the hours sort of decreased, just due to the economy and the company I was at. But I was playing more and more online, and my studying was pretty minimal. I mean, I was looking at the forums and stuff, not really talking hands with people, but
Right.
when I was playing online, obviously the games back then in like 2006, 2007, 2008 were much softer.
Absolutely.
And I probably was making way more money than I deserved to be making for the amount of study and effort that I was putting into it.
Yeah.
But so how did you go from like, where did you go from there? From the Palms 2-5 game? Like,
So I kept playing that game. Then eventually they started spreading 10-20 no limit at Bellagio, but they didn't have the 5-10. The 10-20 played like amazingly smaller than it does today. So like
Really?
the average buy-in would be like $2,000. Most people just buy in for a rack of 20s. So I played a little bit of that, mixed, up and down with it. Obviously had nowhere near the bankroll to be playing it, but nobody knew. I mean, I'm sure some people did. Nobody in my circle, which was very small at the time, had a clue what kind of bankroll you needed for no limit games.
Yeah.
So I mean, at that point, I might have had 8 buy-ins or something. And it's like, okay, well, whatever. I mean, I have no idea. It's like you just buy it for 2,000 and see what happens.
Yeah.
Played a little bit of that, and then found online poker towards the end of 2005.
Okay. And then, so what was, because you left Vegas at some point.
I did. Beginning of 2007.
And,
Met my wife here.
uh-huh.
She got offered a job in Texas.
Yep.
So I was playing mostly online. Figured, why not?
Okay.
Moved to Austin. Kept playing online.
I'm learning a lot about you right now.
Yeah, well.
We're learning together about Benton.
So played online a lot. Didn't enjoy Austin. Didn't make any friends because I sat behind the computer all day.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've heard so many good things about Austin, but I guess if you're just grinding online poker the whole time, you don't really get to experience it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'd get up at 5 in the morning and just play, and then go play golf or something.
But I also think that might be like part of the reason for your success, because I think a lot of kids that were your age at the time probably weren't working as hard as they could have been, or as hard as you were.
That definitely could be true. I didn't think of it at the time. I just love playing.
Yeah.
Right. I just like.
You still do, right?
I do. I look forward to going to work every day. Just grinded.
Yep.
And did that until Black Friday, which at the time we had just moved. She got transferred from Houston to Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
Moved there, kept grinding online, had a child.
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks later, Black Friday happened.
Exciting.
So I was
very exciting.
Yeah, it was like some huge moment in my life, followed 2 weeks later by this holy crap kind of moment.
Yeah.
Now, what am I going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, Biloxi, Mississippi was an hour away.
Mm-hmm.
Got an apartment in Biloxi. And we
Played
spent
at the
every
Book?
weekend, played at the Borvage. I mean, we played some big games there on the weekends, especially PLO. I mean, 10-25, 50, 10-25, 100 on the button.
Big.
Too big. Too big. It had always started off small and then just like snowballed,
Sure.
right?
Yeah. Which is
but
interesting because I know you're like a pretty conservative bankroll management guy.
I am.
So we'll probably, I'm sure someone will have a question about that, so we'll get into that at some point. But
I am.
so eventually you came back to Vegas.
Yeah, so grinded the bow a while. Wife got transferred back to Houston, so off we went. And in Houston, it was a little bit tough because I was coming out here 10 days a month. I didn't have online to go to like I did before. So I was coming out here 10 days a month. My kids started getting older.
Mm-hmm.
It was tough on my wife, tough on him, you know, with his dad going 10 days every month.
Mm-hmm.
I was lucky enough where I had a place to stay out here.
Mm-hmm.
And it just got too much. So we sold our house in Houston about 2.5 years ago and came back out here.
All right, and here you are.
Here I am.
And you've made some friends who are some pretty good poker players. We've introduced Joe Tehan and John Kim on the blog previously.
Yeah.
Some pretty well-known names.
Yeah, I mean Joe is probably one of my first friends in Vegas. He's definitely one of my best friends who've been knowing him since 2003. But we used to play like limit hold'em together. Mm-hmm. You know, it dates back to the 30-60 limit game at Bellagio.
Yep.
And yeah, knew John around 2008 through Joe. John Kim started helping me, and he was really a big factor in me making the transition to the 6-max games online. Because before that, I'd mostly play 9-handed.
Yeah.
I even took a year playing tournaments
yeah.
online, which was okay. I won a Sunday major, but I also look back and say that was like my most miserable year ever because I'm just not a tournament guy.
Well, there you go. You got to stick with what you like.
Yeah,
that's where you find success.
Yeah, so knew those guys. So when I moved back out here, I got the royal invitation to the Steam chat group. But we had actually met one time before, you and I. I don't know if you remember the first time we met.
Remind me.
Biloxi, Mississippi. I hadn't met you before, but you had came down there with a couple of guys in our chat group.
Yeah, I remember saying hi. I do.
And we were seated next to each other at the table.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey man, I'm Andrew.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I heard about you. He said, you know, some of our friends told me you're the best 1-3 no limit player in Las Vegas. And you're like, yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm Andrew. I follow you on Twitter. I was like, oh, cool.
Because you were writing the occasional article for like All Vegas Poker was that website,
which is now Poker Atlas. Yep.
Now called Poker Atlas. So and you know your stuff was always on point and really readable. So I had known you through that. Yeah. And our little text group had grown to include some really good poker players like Benton and Joe Tehan and John Kim and a couple other guys as well.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings us to the present. I mean,
it does. I mean, the last 2.5 years just been grinding, nothing new.
I mean, like also in the meantime though, there's all this like, you know, that's obviously the super fast version, but this has already taken 15 minutes.
It felt like a super long version to me.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you're covering like how many years of life right there?
It's 13 years and 15 minutes.
And in the meantime, like I think it's tough for people to kind of picture all of the hand discussions and text messages and in-person conversations that go on, like in the meantime to sort of develop your skills, your poker skills. And there's who knows like how many hours of conversations that have happened like over those years.
Oh man,
like amongst you and your friends.
Unbelievable. But definitely this circle of friends that we have in this text group, even though a lot of it's like joking around now, that has by far helped my game, and I hope it's also helped yours and everybody else's more than anything else that I've done. And I've been a member of every training site. I'm still a member of training sites today. Like I enjoy learning. I want to always find new things, but when it all, at the end of the day, this is by far what's helped me the most.
Yep, that's 100%. I agree. for sure. And I mean, there's so many things we could say about it. You know, just like getting the various opinions, but then eventually maybe coming to agreement. You know, on one probably best line in one particular hand or whatever. You know, it might take a little while to get there. There's a lot of back and forth, but that back and forth is just super valuable.
Yeah, it is, because a lot of times it'll open your eyes up to like, I didn't really look at, you know, this certain way of playing the hand. But poker's so subjective, right? I mean, there's definitely so many different ways. We're just looking for the most plus EV way to play a hand.
Yeah, and it's awesome when you get like those varied opinions, you know, because I think like, you know, I think me and you might play somewhat similar, especially compared to a guy like Joe Tehan, who nobody plays similar to.
Right.
So you know, just getting those opinions is about as valuable as it gets.
True.
All right, so there you go. Benton Blakeman, poker player. Fantastic poker player. So, let's get down to it. You guys submitted some phone numbers. It's time to make some calls. It's time to include you guys in the conversation. So, don't really know how exactly this is going to work, how it's really going to work out since this is the first time we've done it. We're just going to randomly pick some people here. As you can see from, I'm going to try and hide most of this. If you can see, oh, you probably can't see that. No, you probably can't see that. But normally it says like how many messages you got. In my Instagram inbox, it says 99 plus requests. It doesn't even go above 99. So I don't really know exactly how many requests and phone numbers are in here. But we're just gonna like scroll and stop somewhere and pick a number and see what that person wants to chat about.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, let's do it. This person, they say is in Florida. So we'll just pick this person. I'm gonna try and not look at their message other than their phone number. Here, write this person's phone number down. I can't say it out loud because then it's on the... I'm trying not to read it because I want to be surprised. I want the person at the other end to tell me what's on their mind. We don't even know if they're gonna answer the phone, so we'll see what happens. I'm gonna say, okay, Cody. We're gonna try and call Cody K. All right, Cody, we're calling you. Let's see what happens. So far, no answer from Cody.
I wonder how many people are going to think it's a bill collector call.
It could be a lot of these, no answers.
You can leave a message or just on to the next one.
On to the next one.
Welcome to the message management system.
All right, Cody, you missed your shot. That was your shot. On to the next one. Let's see what happens here. Spin the wheel.
And name?
I believe his name is Merdad. All right, attempt number 2.
Did see Michigan State alum though.
Yeah, I saw that. Michigan State alumni. It's tough when they don't know who the hell's calling in this day and age.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated...
Moving on. All right, Derek. We're reaching out to Derek here.
Come on, Derek.
You can do it.
We got faith.
Is that right?
Yep. I got a good feeling about Derek.
Yeah?
Yeah. Come on, Derek.
I'm sorry, the person you are trying to reach has a voicemail box that has not been set up yet.
Moving on. Here, I think maybe towards the top of these, maybe somebody... Okay, I'm gonna call this number. I think we're calling Cedric this time.
All right.
I have a good feeling about Cedric.
Yeah.
All right, Cedric. This is happening. Cedric's not happening.
Your call has been forwarded to an automated voice...
Bye, Cedric.
Calling this person.
All right.
This should be good. You need the name? I think it's Chris.
Don't let us down, Chris.
All right, someone's calling us back.
That's Cedric.
This is Cedric? Okay. Cedric's calling us back, so we're gonna take Cedric's call and then move on to Chris. Is this Cedric?
Yeah, Andrew, how you doing?
What's up, Cedric? You are.
How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. This show that you're on does not have a name yet, so I would normally say you're live on X show, but you're not really live. You're not really live because we're recording this for later editing. But you are on with myself, and my buddy Benton is here as well.
How you doing, Cedric?
How you doing, Benton? Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too, buddy.
All right, Cedric, you got a poker question for us?
Yeah, I would say I have a poker question. It's more of it's not a hand analysis question. It's more just a general question.
Sure.
It would be a question for someone that has a full-time job and is interested in not playing professionally, but just getting their money's worth and heading out to a few places and traveling and playing some tournaments. Would you say that there's any places in particular that you guys would like to play, or like maybe some buy-in sizes that have good value here in the U.S.?
So I mean, like, what sort of buy-in level are you looking at?
So we're looking at probably anything from 600 to 2,500.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, that's pretty big. I mean, there's okay.
Yeah, we're not jumping into any 10Ks or
Yeah, sure.
5Ks or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I've been playing some of the circuit events and like some of the Win series. I was just wondering if there's any nice series that you guys would suggest for someone who's interested in playing but not super serious as of yet.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, it sounds like you've sort of got a sense of some things that some spots you like to check out. Like the circuit events are, an ongoing thing, as you are well aware of. And, there's the things in Vegas that you mentioned, like the Win and this, like the Deep Stacks series at the Venetian and that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
I think, do you check out any of the sites that sort of list all of the events, like all over the place?
Yeah, so I guess I've checked out Card Player for a few, like this summer, for anything that was non-World Series related. That's why I kind of played a couple Win tournaments and a Golden Nugget, a big one at the Golden Nugget, like their main event.
Yeah.
I think another thing is my wife travels with me, and she's not a card player, kind of like Lucy Andrew, but
Okay.
she likes traveling places that she can do something in and
Sure.
visit a new place.
Yeah.
So, like, for instance, when you went to Barcelona, that would have been a nice one.
Yeah, that's recommended for sure. Yeah, so I mean, I would suggest like checking out. We just mentioned earlier on the show here, looking up Poker Atlas. A site like that will tell you like what's going on, like what upcoming events there are all over the place, and they'll list all of the tournaments and all the buy-ins and also like all the cash games at each stop. And that's something that's like super comprehensive, that it's like a spot where you can just go and see what's coming in the near future, down the road, or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as different spots, like Andrew kind of hit on it, you could go anywhere the circuit stops. But if you bring your wife with you, I mean, Vegas is a great place because there's a lot of stuff for you guys to do. And he definitely nailed it. Like, see, the tournaments you're talking about, they're all going to be relatively high juice, but you're not going to be able to escape that. That's going to be anywhere you go. So you just have to deal with it, like if you want to play them. So go to the places that are fun. Vegas is fun, and you've got a ton of tournaments in that price range between the Venetian and the Win. And then there's different circuit stops all over. If you like going to the beach or something, there's one right now in Biloxi, Mississippi, where there's a tournament series going on to Beau Rivage and a World Series stop at the IP, right?
Yep.
Right there on the beach. And of course, there's a ton throughout Florida. So you really can't go wrong as long as you just decide where you want to go. In any of those World Series circuit events or our events here in Vegas are pretty much going to fit the needs you're looking for.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate it.
All right, you got it. Yeah, just check out those sites. Poker Atlas. I think that's probably your main go-to for the info.
Okay, I appreciate it.
All right, Cedric.
I'll be in town in about 5-6 days. Maybe you guys gotta meet me, bro.
I'll probably be here, so shoot me a line. Where are you right now?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
All right, shout out to Texas, San Antonio. All right, thanks, Cedric.
All right, guys.
Take care, man.
Thanks
Later,
for
man.
tuning in. That's it.
Bye.
All right.
All right, there you go. So
One down, 99 plus to go.
We got one. We got our first call in. Nice, we did it. This is actually happening. One's on the books. There's so much poker all over the place nowadays. Like so many towns and cities all over the U.S. And then if you like international travel, of course, there's that as well. But there's so many like nice properties, nice casinos that have been redone recently. It's like it's everywhere. I would almost like. I don't know if I would base it around the poker so much as like I want to go check out this town that I always wanted to go look at, and I'm probably going to be able to find a poker game of some sort.
Very true. Very true. And I mean, you touched on it. I don't mean to keep harping on it, but yes, using something like Poker Atlas is great. You decide where you want to go, Just go to Poker Atlas, type in that city, and it'll immediately give you the closest casinos when they have tournaments, cash games.
And then there's
just a good resource.
There's also the app, many times I mentioned, Bravo. Download that app, and then you can find out what's closest on their system as well.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty tough to go wrong. All right, we're calling Chris.
Chris.
Let's do this, Chris. Coming after you, Chris. Hopefully you guys are getting all the sound effects. Phone ringing, phone typing, dialing. It's important.
Hello?
Is this Chris?
Yes, this is Chris.
Chris, this is Andrew, and I'm here with my buddy Benton, and we're here to answer your poker question.
Holy moly, this is awesome.
This is happening. This is actually happening.
How you doing, Chris?
This is actually happening. Very cool.
Yeah, man, we're here. I'm here with Benton, and what's on your mind? What's happening in poker?
I guess this is one that I feel needs to be addressed in the poker world, and it's something I see like constantly, and it's people that don't understand bankroll management.
Okay.
What like for someone getting started, what would be, and I'm not just talking about like the start, like how many buy-ins and all that stuff, but what's a very good tip for someone who just absolutely does not understand the concept of bankroll management?
Does not understand the concept of bankroll management.
Well, I would start off by saying they need to understand the concept of variance before understanding the concept of bankroll management.
Yeah. So obviously, like you're gonna have winning sessions, and even if you play well and you do everything well, then that's not gonna matter all the time because you're still gonna lose. So that's the very basic essence of bankroll management, is that you need to have enough padding underneath those times where you do everything right and still lose. So that's like that's where you start. You start by conceptualizing bankroll management in that sense. Is this something that you don't understand, or you're trying to explain it to somebody else?
No, I'm trying to explain it to somebody else, but it's a topic of conversation between my circle of players, buddies, that we always kind of, we notice people on Instagram that seem to yo-yo their stakes that they play.
Sure.
And it's like anywhere from like 10, 20, 25, 50, all the way back down to like, 2-5, 3-5.
Yeah.
5 games.
Got it.
So it's just very unusual to see, and it's actually an alarming amount of people.
Sure.
So I don't know if you've noticed that online, but it's something that for someone like myself who pays attention to Instagram quite a bit.
Yeah, sure.
I see it constantly.
Yeah, no, sure. It's been, it's all over. It's not just on Instagram. It's, you see people moving up and down through the stakes in person, in the card rooms that you play, and for sure online as well.
And I'd imagine it's more so that they still do understand it, they just don't care about it.
Yeah.
Some people love to take shots, right?
That's probably the other reason too.
Yeah, sure. So I think part of it comes down to personal preference. Like, some people like more stability, of course, and therefore practice more conservative bankroll management. We were talking about this a little bit before the call. They want to play their stake. They don't want to move up and down the stakes because they want to sort of be aware of what their expected win rate is going to be over the next couple of months or half a year or whatever. And it's more important to them that they have that number in mind.
Sure.
And therefore they just want a little bit more stability and will apply a sort of like a wider range to their bankroll management. So they'll have like a bigger number of buy-ins before moving up. And that will also allow for a bigger cushion before they'll have to move back down. Other people, I think, don't mind as long as they're able to move back down. Like if they move up and they lose one session, then they're going to have to move back down. And if they're fine with that, then I think that's pretty reasonable. But if they end up at like 0 buy-ins for all games, then that's not good.
Right. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with your personal situation too, right?
Yeah.
Like a single, no children. You can be way more aggressive with your shot taking,
right.
Your bankroll management.
Yeah.
Somebody like me who's married and has a young child and has a lot of bills and stuff. Like, I want to know more or less what I'm going to make per hour.
Exactly.
I want to put in the hours.
Sure.
And I don't want to I don't want to deal with those swings in my life. I have enough stress in my life. I don't need that.
Right.
So,
yeah, poker's very stressful.
Yeah.
You never exactly know what your income is going to be over any small stretch of time.
Right. I don't see a problem with somebody like myself. I pretty much play 5-10 every day. Occasionally, I'll play 10-20.
Yeah. Occasionally,
I will play 2-5, but I don't veer outside of that. But I see no problem with somebody who's single and who understands as long as they can drop back down, they can jump up 2 steps.
Yeah.
You know,
another guy in our text group, his name is John. Not John Kim, John Hemmer. He used to advocate a lot more fluid of a bankroll management style, to where you're much quicker moving up and down through the games, and it doesn't really matter like what your designated game is, as long as you're not being stubborn in moving back down if need be, and as long as you're not risking more than X percentage at any one time, then you should be okay to move up and down. Again, a lot of it is just going to come down to personal preference and how you like to live your life, really.
Yeah. So I guess that kind of leads me to a secondary question. I don't know how much time I get, but
okay.
The other kind of, it correlates with all that is, with you mentioning having a family, having those responsibilities, and obviously having to focus on the per hour win rate more. How do you, what goes into your preparation, or how do you limit variance on something like that? Because obviously you're in a much different scenario than, say, average single guy that goes and plays, 40, 50 hours of 5-10 every week.
Do you mean how do you limit variance in terms of your income, or actual hands and play at the table?
Yeah, does it affect the way you play?
Okay.
Yeah, I try not to ever let it affect the way I play. If I do feel like it's affecting the way I play, I just quit. We talked about this, last night didn't go as well as I planned, but I just called my session short. I just, pulled up and quit after 4 hours because, I'm still playing okay, but maybe not making the best decisions, and that just doesn't bode well in the long term. I'm better off just cutting those hours out and moving on to the next day.
Yeah, I suspect that your play probably wasn't going to change that drastically, but the feeling the next day might linger a little bit longer.
Well, I always say that, yeah. My A game is not far from my C game.
Yeah.
But the problem is if I stay with my C game too long in one session, it will carry over for a week, which is not good.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's all I do. I don't ever play a hand because I have a wife and a child. I play a hand differently than if I were single. I just manage my bankroll differently than if I were single. I just always make sure that I'm properly rolled for the game that I'm playing in, because I don't want to miss value, just because I'm scared of the money. That ends up never working out too well.
Yep. All right, Chris, that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that answers everything. I appreciate it, guys.
All right, Chris, thanks for the questions. Appreciate it, man.
You got it. Good luck with the rest of the callers.
Where are you located?
Huntington Beach, California.
Beautiful.
Yeah, one of my favorite places.
Yeah, awesome.
The paradise.
I need to come stay at your place so I can come afford to play in California.
You got it. Anytime, man. Hey,
All right.
I've seen your videos of the Gardens and Hustlers, so you need to have a double win rate to be able to afford the hotel rooms out here.
All right, I'm coming to stay, Chris.
Take care, buddy.
Take care, Chris. Thanks.
All right, 2 calls, 2 in a row. Things are happening. I think someone was trying to call us. Did that?
A 954 was Derek.
That's Derek trying to call us?
Yep.
All right, let's try and call on Derek back.
Well, they may not be answering, but they're calling back.
Yeah, I guess can't complain too much.
Hello?
Hey, this is Derek.
Yes, it is.
Hey, Derek, it's Andrew Nemi.
What's up?
How's it going, Derek? You are on the show without a name at the moment, and it's not live. It's being recorded, so I can't say you're live on X show, but you're here with me and my buddy Benton, and we're trying to help you with whatever poker question might be on your mind.
All right. So I just wanted your opinion on an angle shot that someone did on me the other night.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Let me pull up my notes.
Oh, you have notes on it. It must be.
Love it.
That's good. Detailed angle shooting.
I was a little upset about it, and I eventually, after I thought about it for a while, I made a pretty bad fold. So.
Okay, let's have it.
All right, so my starting stack was $142. I was playing 1-2 no limit. I was under the gun. I get dealt 4 or 5 of spades, so I just limp for $2.
Okay.
7 people limp, and then my buddy that was sitting next to me was the big blind. He raises it to 8.
To $8.
So I call
$8.
along with one other person.
So your buddy in the big blind makes it 8, and you call, and one other person calls.
Yeah, so it's 3 to a flop.
Mm-hmm.
How do people fold for $8?
Yeah, well. So the flop comes 6 of spades, king of diamonds, and 7 of spades. So I flop an open-ended straight flush draw.
Yep.
All right.
The big blind checks, I check, and the limp caller raises to 15.
So
And
it checks to the guy. In last position who bets 15.
yeah,
Okay.
so the big blind and I both call.
Okay.
The turn comes ace of diamonds. So the ace of diamonds and the king of diamonds now on the board. The big blind checks, I check, and the limp caller bets 50.
Okay.
My buddy in the big blind snap folds, and I start to think about it for a while. And in this position, I'm not really thinking about calling because I'm leaning towards jamming on it for I think I have 120 left.
Yep.
So I'm thinking for about a minute and a half or so, and I'm getting ready to just toss in and say all in, and he throws his stack into the betting area and says, "Oh, I'm all in no matter what he does."
Okay.
So that, that really threw me off of my train of thought.
So basically, he's saying
Thinking back on it.
he's letting you know you have no fold equity, basically.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. It's binding though. Is it binding?
I guess it depends what card room.
Yeah, it depends on the card room on what they say. But okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So that really throws me off, and I wasn't really it threw off my train of thought. But thinking back on it, he probably did that because he really didn't want me to call. So I guess he figured I had some kind of draw or something. He just didn't want me to call or whatever.
It's possible, or he could just be being open about it and not really caring. It's tough for me
Yeah.
and Benton to know, but you might know that.
Right. And so I don't know. I ended up making a really stupid and nitty fold because of that. I should have just jammed on him and see what he did there. And so he rolled over king 10 off.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, I just wanted to get your guys' opinion. Is that a snap call or?
I see what you mean. Well, let's start. We're going to start at the beginning of the hand. But yeah, it's a pretty interesting little scenario that went down. There's always endless funny things that happen in live poker, and especially 1-2 games.
Yeah, before breaking down the hand, just as far as you're asking about an angle, I don't necessarily call that an angle. I just say that some guy, saying some funky stuff or doing something. You hear it all the time, you do whatever you want, I'm going to call you, or, don't shove, I might fold.
Yeah.
I don't really call it an angle.
Right,
Maybe
right.
it borders on slimy, maybe. I'm not sure. It's not something that I do at the table, but it's not something that I ever look down on somebody for doing, some of the true angles that we would see at the table,
Yeah. I don't think it shouldn't matter too much, I don't think, in the decision making.
Right.
So, do you want to start at the beginning of this hand?
Yeah.
So, all right. So, do you want us to go through the hand, or are you just really curious about the angle, the potential angling part?
Yeah, you guys could go through the hand and give me your insight.
Okay. Yeah, because oftentimes when you ask a question like this, there's other things that this happens in our text group all the time. We were talking about this before the call, our text group. there's often a question that we will pose to the group about like a later street, like what should I do in this big decision? But there will be a lot of feedback that comes back about like, why did you do that pre-flop, or why did you do that on the flop? Because that puts you in maybe a spot that you might not have been in the first place, or something like that. So I think that's like pretty normal sort of thing to go back and look over the entire hand.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so
you want to kick it off?
Well,
I'm sure we're thinking the same thing.
Yeah. So like basically, Benton and I, and we subscribe to the theory of basically never open limping. You pretty much always are coming in for a raise when you're first one into the hands. If nobody's in before you, you probably want to come in for a raise. And 4-5 suited, it's probably a little bit too light. From under the gun to be coming into the pot in the first place.
Especially with 70 big blinds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, when you're 70 big blinds deep, you're really looking for like top pair, top kicker type hands. Those are the hands that are overpairs. Those are the hands that will play the best at that stack size. It's pretty easy to get all your money in. They play pretty well. Your drawing hands, your 4-5 suiteds and 10-8 suiteds, while they play pretty well 100 or more big blinds deep, the deeper the better for those hands. So I would shy away from opening a hand like 4-5 suited under the gun with 70 big blinds. That said, if you had 4-5 suited on the button and it folded to you, I'm definitely going to open the hand.
100%.
But that's not what happened. We limped in.
Yep.
7 people limped. The big blind makes like a unbelievably tiny raise to 8. And somehow everybody folds except for you and one other person.
Yeah.
So taking it from there, flop king 6-7 with the 6-7 of spades. Pretty nice flop. Yeah. Opening straight flush draw.
Yeah.
You've got about 130 left in your stack. I'm fine with the flop check. I would also be fine with a bet.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to a bet for sure.
And like I said, I was playing with my buddy. He was sitting next to me, and after like we were hanging out, and he was like really like confused as to why I folded on the turn when I did, and he was thinking like it's like a must call there, and I was like, and I just kept telling him I had 5 high. Like,
so what do you think?
I couldn't even play both.
Well, let's get there. You gotta slow down though. We're not there yet. We're not at the. We're still on the flop here.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we gotta analyze each street thoughtfully.
Yeah. So on the flop, bet or check is fine.
What do you think the merit to checking is?
Because we have 5 high, and if something exactly like this happens, I would have loved just a check jam on the flop after it goes bet 15.
Okay.
Big blind calls 15. I think it's a perfect spot where we still have fold equity, which we'll get to later. We don't have on the turn, but we would have had fold equity on the flop because at that point there was 30 in the pot. The pot would be another 45, 75.
Yeah.
And we're shoving like 117 above it. I think that would have been a much more optimal line than check calling.
Check calling out of position just kind of sucks because you're just left in a pretty awkward spot, like when you don't improve.
Yeah, and I mean if we check jam this and the guy does have king 10 and he decides to call it off for another 100 plus, it's not the worst thing in the world. We have a ton of equity with our hand.
Yeah, it's never you're never gonna hate it.
Yeah, but we didn't do that. We call.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. So the turn's ace of diamonds. Pot's now $75. We have about 117 left.
Mm-hmm.
Checks again to late position, who now bets 50.
Yeah.
The big blind folds, and now it's on us with 117 left.
And the guy is basically saying, "I'm calling no matter what."
And the guy's telling you he's calling no matter what.
Assuming it's binding. Let's assume it's binding that he does have to call that after he says that.
Yes.
I assume you're just going to call, right?
I'm going to call it.
Yeah. So you still have like such really good equity in that spot. You know you're going to have some live outs no matter what. And if the guy is basically never folding, there's no point in jamming it because even if you get there on the river, it's going to be really tough for him to not pay it off because you have such little amount left on the river. So I don't think you have to worry about like not getting paid off when you make your hand.
Right.
So there's no point in jamming if there's no fold equity on the turn. And yeah, I mean, you got a bunch of equity still left on the turn.
Yeah. I mean, we can't credibly, even with the guy saying that and pulling what you call the angle, I still don't see him folding for $65 more on top of the 50. So I just don't see a point. Like, I know you'd like to check shove the turn because you feel like you can't call.
Yep.
But I think that's a big mistake that a lot of people fall into. Like, say, well, I don't have enough money to just call. Well, that's not really true. Like, it's not always a shove or a fold. Like, you can just look at the math, and the math can dictate a call, even though you're not leaving yourself a ton behind. When you don't have the fold equity, there's no point in putting in the money unless you make your hand. Why not save that last 35 big blinds?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's tough to know whether it's tough for us to say like whether he was just being honest or he was trying to screw around with you, because we don't know the guy and we don't know like what he's capable of.
Right.
It's certainly possible that he was trying to get you out of the pot. I mean, I don't think he ever expects you to fold an ace, so I guess he might have just wanted you to fold whatever equity you had, and he was happy to take it down there perhaps. But you know, I think that we tend to maybe shy away from like talking about tells and things when we talk about hands, you know, in our text group.
Right.
We don't really put too much emphasis on that because it's hard for the group to really visualize what's going on and when they're not sitting there. We try and look at things more about like, you know, when these lines come up, what do you do in these different spots? Because those are the things that are going to translate to the similar type spots that happen repeatedly, and instead of like this one dude who pulled this one weird thing on you, and you know, is he going to try it again at some point in the future when I have an open and straight flush draw or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's always interesting to try and like figure out what these crazy people are doing at the poker table in a 1-2 game.
Yeah, for sure.
Where's this going down?
South Florida.
South Florida? Which town?
Coconut Creek, Seminole Coconut Creek Casino.
All right. So we're gonna have
Been there.
You've been there?
Been there.
It's about a half an hour or so north of the Hard Rock.
Yep.
Okay.
Down here.
All right. So when we make our next trip to Coconut Creek, we're gonna keep an eye out and be ready for these.
Yeah, for sure.
These things.
When if you guys do, I've got a group of friends we'd love to play in some like 2-5 meetup game if you guys wanted to bring it down here.
Awesome. We're gonna make it to Florida at some point.
They do private games there too.
Oh yeah.
That's what I learned at Coconut Creek when
Sweet.
I showed up for a 5-10 game. They said, you know, this is actually a private game.
Oh, at the casino.
At the casino, and I said, well, what do you mean? I'm from Vegas. We don't have private games. You can't lock anybody out. Well,
yeah.
There you can.
Interesting. All right. Well, It's a learning experience for me as well. So thanks for enlightening us, Derek, and thanks for the hand and the call.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the call and everything.
Yeah. All right. Talk to you later, man.
Take care, Derek.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye. All right. Moving right along. I don't know how many more of these we should do. Should we try one more maybe?
Yeah.
And then call it a day? I don't think we got any phone calls in the meantime that I can remember.
It's roulette. Just spin the wheel.
Let's go back. Going back in Instagram. We're going deep in the list here.
Why is Doug Polk sending us 1-2 hand questions?
What?
Nothing.
Marty. Out here.
Marty.
Say it out loud. All right, Marty. You are the one. Hopefully.
The chosen one.
Last call coming in, I think. Hopefully.
I say we just call them all.
Yeah?
99 plus.
Turn the lights on. Come on, Marty.
This is Marty.
Hi, Marty. This is Andrew Nemi.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Is this a good time?
Yeah, this is a great time.
Okay, cool. Where are you at?
What's that?
Where are you located?
Oh, I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Awesome. I've never been there, but heard good things. Have you been to Albuquerque? By the way, I'm here with my buddy Benton, who is one of, if not the best poker player that I personally know. The best one who's ever sat in my home office here to help me go over poker questions with you awesome listeners.
How you doing, Marty?
Good.
Terrific. Yeah, I've been to Albuquerque a few times.
Benton has been to Albuquerque a few times.
But never played poker there.
Never played poker there. So you're going to have to tell us about some poker situations, perhaps, that or whatever poker question you have on your minds.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so I don't play professionally by any means.
Okay.
Pretty recreational player.
Yep.
Play at the casinos a little bit. Just some 1-2 here at there's a casino here called Sandia. It's a pretty nice resort, and they have some good tables there. But I actually have a house game that I have at my house about every other week.
Very cool.
And we usually get about 10 or 12 people playing. And, I think the skill level varies quite a bit. There's probably like 5 or 6 regular players who are pretty serious about the game, and then we have a bunch of people who pop in, not consistently, but every so often. So a friend of mine, who's actually a coworker, we're pretty close. We got into a pretty big argument. Since the game is pretty casual, we play it's a cash game. We play 25, 50-cent blinds.
Yep.
And it's pretty casual, so we usually have some drinks and just lots of talking. And
sounds fun. Sounds like
a serious game. But
sounds like the classic American poker game happening.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I think that we get a decent amount of cash on the table for a 25, 50-cent game. And what happened, anyways, was so I had to have been on the button. My friend there was a straddle for sure.
Okay.
The pot was straddled, so it was straddled to $1, and he under the gun +1 raised it to 4.
Okay.
And then I think it was probably 7-handed at this point. It was pretty late.
Sure.
It was probably 3 o'clock in the morning or so. And I think everybody had a few drinks, and all the pretty inexperienced players had left, and it was only the people who played pretty.
Only the real battlers left, huh?
So, yeah.
All right.
And then so it got to me on the button, and I believe I had Ace King offsuit, and I pretty much raise every button. When we're just playing for fun, nearly every button. So I 3-bet to $12.
Any idea what your stack sizes were? You and the other players in the hand, approximately?
Oh yeah, we were pretty deep. The guy on the straddle was probably 300 big blinds deep. The gentleman who opened the betting was probably 400 or 500 deep, and then I was probably the same stack size as well.
Yeah. Okay, so you 3-bet to 12, and then what happens?
The big blind called, small blind folded, and then it folds around to the person who opened the action, who also calls. And then so we're off to the flop. Must have been Ace Jack 10. The guy who opened the action definitely plays tight, and he doesn't like to lose a lot of money regardless of how many drinks he has.
Okay.
He's a pretty tight player.
Okay, so Ace Jack 10.
The big blind checks, and then the guy who opened the actions bets out for $21. I elect to call in this situation. The big blind actually folds, and then we're off to the turn, and the turn was a queen, which made me Broadway.
Yep.
And he actually checks, and I'm looking to get the most value. So with him being so tight, I feel like he's pretty worried about what I have. So I check behind him, and then the river's a blank. So I think it must have been like a 4 or something. There's no flush on board or anything.
Okay.
So he checks the river as well. And I figure he puts me on something big, which I'm kind of surprised about, just because he's checking into me, and I didn't think that he would open or call a 3-bet on the flop with anything but premium holdings. So I overbet the pot. I probably bet $90 or $100. I'm sorry, on the river. I bet $90 or $100 on the river.
Yeah.
And he goes well into the tank for, I don't know. It was quite a while. There was quite a bit of talking going on.
Sure.
While I sat nervously hoping that he would make a call. And eventually, he ends up folding his hand, so he made the correct laydown for sure. And then the debate is where my question comes in afterwards, because he told me he had pocket queens, so he had turned a set the debate was, I told him that I was betting for value, and it was probably like a 20-minute argument, probably fueled by the alcohol a bit. But the argument was about that it couldn't have been a value bet because I bet so largely. And I tried to explain to him that I felt like it was a value bet. I mean, granted, I wouldn't normally make an overbet to the pot for value, but just based on our hand history and what I wanted him to perceive off me, I felt like the overbet was a value bet.
Sure.
And I mean, in this situation, it was for sure probably not the right bet, because I feel like if I had bet smaller, he probably would have called.
Sure.
Right.
Well, I mean,
I explained that to him too.
Yeah. So there's basically, like, as far as like your actual question, there's a very short answer, which is value bets can come in all sizes, and one of those sizes is for sure the overbet value bet. And just because you're overbetting the pot doesn't make it mean it's not a value bet. A value bet is just something where you're trying to get called, which means get value from your hand. And sometimes you want to get a lot of value. If you think you can get more than what's in the pot, then it's still a value bet.
Yeah, and value bets can often be made to look like bluffs, right?
Yeah.
So that's all this was a value bet that was disguised as a bluff in hopes of him thinking it was a bluff and calling. So yeah, definitely a value bet.
Yeah. So as far as like the hand goes, pre-flop is super standard, at least from your point of view. The flop, I think, is probably standard when he leads into you and you just flat call the flop. I think that's probably
definite standard call. A really weird bet by your buddy under the gun one, but besides that, your call 100% standard. Can't really see a reason to raise the flop.
Yeah, from your point of view, pretty straightforward on the flop.
But the turn
is the most interesting part of the hand. I mean, I guess like your bet sizing on the river is also interesting, but yeah, pretty interesting to think about when he checks to you and you have the nuts there, and you assign him like a pretty strong hand. It's an interesting decision to check back on the turn.
Yeah. I mean, you with the range that you're assigning him, it's going to be a whole lot of like sets and two pairs, correct? Because you think he's pretty solid player or pretty tight player. When you're assigning him a range that's that narrow and that connects with this board so much, and you have the nuts, I think it's kind of a big mistake to not go for some value there. It doesn't mean you have to overbet the pot and blow him off his hand, but we have the nuts here, and he's gonna have a big hand, and a lot of times he won't be able to fold on the turn because he's hoping that the board pairs on the river. He may know he's beat on the turn, but I still think you need to be going for some value there. I would definitely be looking to bet with 85 in the pot. I would probably be betting $50 or so, a little bit over half pot.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking about 50. Because it's like, it's just, I mean, it's not like he's making a complete crying call, because sometimes you could be turning your hand into a bluff, like maybe you have like a weak ace and that you're setting up a bluff with, or something, something else of the sort, and he's going to have equity against hands that he's behind anyway, some of the time.
Or maybe Marty has a set of jacks or a set of tens, right? And he's going to bet when it checks through because he may think he has the best hand and want to get some value in there. Or...
So, I mean, if you assign him a strong range, and he's not the type to kind of just like camera battery died. New camera battery. Where were we on the? But yeah, I think I was saying that if you think he's got a pretty strong range and he's not one to just like randomly fire off, make like some random bluffs here and there, because I think the only merit I think to checking on the turn would be like to sort of induce on the river, or like disguise your hand, some sort of deception there. If you think that he might like take some random stab on the river with something that he's probably just going to fold on the turn if his range is like that wide. But it sounds like his range. It sounds like from your description his range isn't that wide, and he's probably connected to this board, and probably going for some value might be the ideal play on here on the turn. Yeah.
Let's pretend Marty bet $50 on the turn, like we both think that he should, and his opponent calls, which he likely would with the set. Now we're looking at about $185 pot going into the river. River's the same offsuit 4. His opponent checks, set of queens. What do you like from Marty's line there with 185 in the pot? Are you thinking big bet or thinking similar? Or I have my thoughts. I'm just kind of curious what you like.
I think like over the years,
in the 1-2 game, sorry, not worried about balance and all that stuff in the bigger games. We're playing core 50.
Yeah, I think like over the years, like of playing the lower stakes, I've always tended to go for a little bit smaller value when it's like that connected of a board, to get someone to make a crying call in this sort of exact situation where they're, even if they have 2 pair, they just don't want to let go of 2 pair, because how often do you get 2 pair?
Right.
And well, I mean, I guess you could make the argument, because even if they have that sort of hand, they still don't want to let it go for a bigger bet. But I tend to think people are pretty well aware that there's forward with straight there, and if it's like some smaller dollar amount, they're probably gonna pay it off.
Yeah, I think we're on the same. But I actually would bet 50 again in this specific game.
Yeah, when you match your bet like that, it's you kind of put them in like a FU.
You see it on their face. They're like, I know you have it, but like I'm gonna pay to see it because I have a hand.
Yeah. So yeah, does that kind of clear up the hand a little bit? So
yeah, absolutely.
So you can tell your buddy that there's value bets of all sizes, and one of those is the overbet. And there's lots of material out there, and lots of discussion that could be had about when it's the most opportune times to overbet for value. And of course, there's overbetting for bluffing as well. This is no limit hold'em, so that's the whole point. You can choose any bet size you want for any reason you want.
Absolutely.
All right.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you so much for calling.
You got it, Marty. Thanks for having us on your telephone.
Oh, I appreciate it.
All right, later, man.
Take care, Marty.
Bye.
All right, that's gonna do it, I think. Some interesting phone calls.
Yeah.
We got some angle shooting, some hand histories on the
Bankroll
1-2 streets.
Management.
Bankroll management, home games, casino games,
Yeah.
all the above. So
Drinking games.
There's probably endless conversations we can have. So if you guys enjoyed this, you guys to let us know, give us some feedback, and
Sure.
I feel like we would be remiss to not mention that Mr. Benton here is going to be doing some coaching. So if you guys are interested, I get a lot of questions about coaching, and it's just something that I don't have the time for at the moment. The vlog takes up so much time between filming and editing and everything else that goes along with it, that it's just not available. There's no room on the plate at the moment. But if you want a better player than me anyway, I recommend Mr. Benton Blakeman here. I'll put a link down to his website below. You can check that out. There's going to be a couple options, I think, right?
Yeah.
A couple options as far as like one-on-one or group or things like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
got a few things going on.
There you go. Get in touch, reach out if you're looking for some coaching, and also let us know what you guys think about this this format of videos. And if you want to partake, you want a phone call, let us know, and we'll do more. All right, thanks for being here, Ben.
Yeah, of course. Enjoyed it.
See ya.
Take care.